So, like, there's a lot of analytics that is really important. Oddly, I mean, I find hockey analytics to be some of the most advanced or easiest to kind of see on the ice. Football, I think, is far behind. I mean, some of the PFF scores that you see, it's just total garbage. And it does not kind of take into account that there's context here. I really despise how some of the analytics community boils down these human beings into numbers and digits and things on a spreadsheet that are incalculable in real life, in my opinion. Some analytics are good and they have value for sure. But some of it's trash. And this ESPN prediction here, let's put this up, like got roasted at the time. Let's scroll down. The Miami Heat have a 3% chance of reaching the NBA Finals according to ESPN Analytics, and they put this up there, 3% to beat the Celtics. And obviously we know the Heat might sweep the Celtics, but they're definitely going to win the series. I'm pretty positive of that. And this was similar to the ESPN's draft model, which had...
I was literally thinking the same thing.
Was it about Will
Levis thing, where it was like, Will Levis had a 99% chance of being drafted night one. It's like, how can you possibly say that with that much certainty?
This is all rumor. In that instance, it's just like what you're being told by people on teams that want that information out there, or his agent. Either way, you're getting gamed. For this, though, this is directly outcome and sports related. So ESPN, this has nothing to do with the Miami Heat. This has to do with your analytics model. They didn't have a 3% chance going into this. How were you calculating that? And honestly, I just think there's a whole kind of cottage industry of analytics sports people that want to use numbers to make the game more digestible for the average fan, as opposed to taking in specific contextual points that are unable to be boiled down into a mathematical equation or into numbers, including Jimmy Butler playing with more heart than I've ever seen. And I mean, this is one of the greatest playoff performances I've seen from one player in my life. And that is not represented in the 3% there.
And also, I think maybe part of it, obviously I'm not even thinking about this graphic, is kind of like, it's almost, obviously people were crapping on it or dunking on it, I think, with like rightfully so, but it's kind of frivolous to a point where I don't know what this clarifies or illuminates for anybody in terms of like how, especially, and the reason I say this too is not just because of the numbers themselves or the percentages themselves. This tweet has no context.
Yeah.
How are they devising these percentages? What are the variables? What are the standards that they are using for these probabilities? I'm sure it's there, it's somewhere, but that context is completely removed from an ESPN tweet with a little graphic. You know what I mean? But like,
I mean, we encounter this in politics too. It's like the Nate Silverification of political commentary.
We'll see we'll see top headlines about certain polls. Then you go to the bottom where they say where the margin of error, how many people were polled. And it's like 400 people in two towns in New Hampshire. It's like, okay, well, I mean, I haven't learned anything then.
There's no substitute for watching the game. Like and I think that there's this whole sports industrial complex where they want to create, and it's not as nefarious as like the military industrial complex. I'm just using it as a shorthand, but they want people to be consuming more and more content. And
totally.
It's like, here, your favorite team actually isn't that bad. Look at how this player is scoring and efficiency and stuff like that. Where for the most part, just watch the game. Everybody that really understands the games, the coaches, the executives, the players, they don't care about this crap, because what it really is it's a spark notes or an attempt at it for people that want to be informed, but it leads to this, like, again, this culture in sports that really bothers me, where it's all focused on numbers and stats because people want to be able to converse but don't really want to watch.
Well,
or don't have the time, but that's fine. Then you don't need to be mega mind about it.
Right. And also I will say I've always thought this a little bit about there have definitely been some people on Twitter who've talked about this as well. I imagine, I actually think there might be some sort of scholarship on this, but I think as much as I appreciate, I'm not anti-analytics in the way of like I'm not like some sort of like old man yells at cloud like
Yeah.
the numbers are making the game worse. Like I don't think of it that way, but the one thing I do think is one, there's clearly a disparity in terms of who is in the room to be like an analytics person in front offices where I think you can clearly see that there is a racial disparity, a socioeconomic disparity. It's like, oh, like, are you attending the Sloan conference at MIT or Harvard? Or like, are you like, where did you go to school for data analytics? Where did you work before you were the analytics guy for the Spurs or whatever? I also think too, it's part of this larger movement, I think, where we kind of not only talk about sports, only flattening sports into only the context of like numbers on a spreadsheet or numbers on Basketball Reference or something like that, as well as how we sort of talk about players as like assets.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that
Exactly.
great contract. That's a great rookie contract because that guy's getting paid such little money. He's so valuable because he's getting paid so little.
Yeah.
You know, like, great to have a rookie quarterback because if he's awesome, he's great. He's also cheap. He's also not making a whole lot of money. Like,
then Patrick Mahomes wins the Super Bowl last year, or I mean, and Matthew Stafford won the Super Bowl the year before.
Like, I obviously love contract talk. I love talking about this stuff, but I think it does definitely it renders people and people playing a sport more of like a intangible, a less tangible like product. It becomes like a stock or a bond as opposed to like a person playing sports.
That's what I don't love.
And the one thing I wanted to say just about Butler as well is that one thing that I think is ineffable and intangible to him when he plays is that he also defies some analytical priors, or defies some ways to sort of quantify him with like numerically necessarily, is because one, he takes a lot of mid-range shots, and two, he takes immensely difficult mid-range shots.
Oh yeah.
So that's a testament for me to him as a player, in that he can operate in a phone booth. He does not require essentially any separation. It doesn't really matter who's guarding him to get a shot up and make shots. That to me is a little bit more ineffable than like he's taking like high quality, high percentage shots. He's not sometimes. What he's doing is he's making them, and that's hard to quantify. And of course,
and you can't quantify Spoelstra's effect on the team either.
Right?
I
exactly.
mean,
that coaching is also a little bit of something that's more nebulous, that can't be necessarily numerically evaluated.
Yeah.
There's not like a percentage that Pop or Spoelstra provide to a winning team necessarily.
Exactly.
It's more of like a culture itself is nebulous.
Yep. I agree. So we could have just roasted ESPN analytics, but we actually had kind of a decently conversation about it.
But this is the Will Levis thing is funny in the context who it is. It's like, how can you from what are the what operational metrics are there to be like, Will Levis, there is only 1% that he won't get drafted? It's like, how? Tell me how.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the Nuggets now though, because I know people are like, ew, Nuggets Heat, but I actually love the Nuggets Heat final.
Oh, I think it'll be awesome.
I mean, it's this incredibly deep team versus, I mean, a team that's playing above its stature but has a superstar in well, it's the two best players in the playoffs facing off in Jokic and Butler.
And honestly, look at, if you'll recall our conversation from like a month ago about the Embiid Jokic MVP dialogue. Really wild to be where we are when a lot of the reason why people were saying, oh, Jokic, like, can't give him a third straight MVP. He's never really done anything in the playoffs. He's never really been able to perform in the playoffs. Oh, interesting that the best player in the world, when his team is completely healthy, is just mowing down his competition.
He's like getting a triple-double like every night.
His quotidian pedestrian games are like 28, 12, and 15.
He's
assists.
Unbelievable. And Jamal Murray has been lights out shooting. I mean, behind the arc, it's like
him and Michael Porter have been playing exactly the way that everyone has wanted them to play when healthy. Michael Porter is showing that he is one of the most lights out perimeter shooters in the game. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, I'm sure the Lakers are a little annoyed that they don't have that guy on their team anymore because he's just been playing quality. He's been playing quality minutes each game. Basically, Bruce Brown, a Nets cast-off, has been playing unbelievably well. Christian Brown, one of their rookies that they drafted last year. It's an incredibly deep team. It's an incredibly well-run team. It's a well-oiled machine. They are playing the best team basketball in the playoffs.